It is estimated that 45 million Americans go on a diet every year, making the fitness industry one of the most prosperous businesses in the United States. To cater to such a huge market, the fitness industry always comes up with different fat products, each with a different promise. One of such promised miracles is the Atkins Diet. The Atkins Diet was first introduced to the American markets during the 1960s-1970s by Dr. Robert Coleman Atkins. The diet idea began when Dr. Atkins became increasingly concerned by the practice of prescribing medications such as amphetamines for appetite-suppressing and weight loss treatment. In 1972, after experimenting on himself and 65 other volunteers, Dr. Atkins published his first book called Dr. Atkins Diet Revolution to explain his findings on low-carb dieting. In his book, he described the diet plan in 4 phases. In phase 1, during this phase, the dieter is only allowed to have 20 to 25 grams net carbs daily. There is a strong food restriction limit here, as dieters can only consume foundation vegetables such as asparagus, broccoli, celery, cucumber, green beans, and peppers. They can consume seeds and nuts like almond, lean protein, healthy fats, and even cheese too, but the dieter should pay attention to the net carbs limit. Whole grains, dairy, starchy carbohydrates, sugary food, legumes, and even fruits are no-no at this phase. Even though Dr. Atkins doesn't emphasize on calorie restriction, his diet guideline can have a dieter cut away excess calories in their daily meals by limiting themselves from consuming certain foods. After 2 weeks of phase 1 diet, the dieter can choose to remain either in phase 1 for faster weight and body fat loss, or it can move to phase 2. Phase 2 is more lenient than phase 1, since the dieter is now allowed to consume high-fiber, watery fruit, such as berries, whole milk dairy products, legumes, and tomato juice. The net carb limit is also raised to 25-50 grams per day. The last 2 phases, phase 3 and phase 4, are the same except for their difference in net carbs limit. In both phases, the dieters are now allowed to consume most kind of food, including starchy vegetables and whole grains. The point is for dieters to adapt a healthy lifestyle while still maintaining a low-carb consumption. Currently, there are modified versions of this classic Atkins diet named Atkins 40 and Atkins 100. These modified versions usually start with phase 2 or 3 or 4 instead of phase 1, offering flexible food choices for dieters who wish to maintain a healthy lifestyle or to lose small weight rather than drastic weight loss like the classic diets. Of course, no matter what phases the dieter is going through, high sugary food and processed food like ice cream, cupcake, or hamburger is restricted. Like many diet programs, Atkins Diet has promised to build long-term healthy eating habits that help people lose weight, get lean, and prevent or improve metabolic disease such as diabetes and hypertension. Comparing to other diets such as paleo, a diet that is supposed to mimic our Stone Age ancestor menu, the classic Atkins diet provides flexible food options such as dieters are allowed to consume vegetable oil, dairy, legumes, grains in later phases, while in paleo, the dieters have to steer clear from these foods. When comparing to intermittent fasting, Atkins diet doesn't require stringent eating schedules, so the dieters can modify their meal time based on their daily life. In addition, there are companies that produce supplementary food based on Atkins diet, helping the dieter to stick to the regime despite their busy, hectic lifestyle. Most supplementary products and food options allowed within Atkins diet are also affordable, so the program does not create a strain on the budget. So how does the Atkins diet work? Let's investigate how food impacts our blood sugar level. When we consume food, as we digest, our blood glucose level will rise, causing insulin release into the bloodstream and facilitating glycogenesis. When there's too much sugar in the bloodstream, our liver will store it as fat. Hence, nutritionists have introduced the term glycemic index and glycemic load. Glycemic index determines how drastic food makes your blood sugar rise. Foods are ranked on a scale of 0 to 100, with pure glucose given a value of 100. The lower a food glycemic index, the slower blood sugar rises after eating that food. Meanwhile, glycemic loads estimate how much a food will raise a person's blood glucose level after eating it. The greater the glycemic impact of a food, the greater and more rapid its impact is on your blood sugar level. While they both sound interchangeable terms, in fact, they point out a different impact. For example, watermelon is a fruit with a glycemic index of 80 but a glycemic load of 5. This is because watermelon contains fructose, a monosaccharide such as glucose. However, since watermelon has mostly water and fiber, the amount of fructose delivered per serving into one system will have minimal impact. This is an important key point in Atkins diet. We want our food to have a low glycemic load and ideally low glycemic index as well. Similar to keto diet, the most advertised fact about Atkins diet is how keeping a low blood glucose level helps the dieters burning body fat. When we eat a low-carb diet, typically keeping at 20 grams per day, our blood sugar will be kept low since fat and protein takes a very long time to digest and release energy. So glucagon is released and insulin level drops. At this point, glycogenesis will be minimized. Our bodies think we are in a stress of energy, so start to degrade glycogen to get glucose. Eventually, as we go into economy mode, which takes 4 to 30 days, our bodies are going to mobilize fatty acid from adipose tissue. Adipose tissue's receptors are bound to norepinephrine, glucagon, and adrenaline, activate both adipose triacylglycerol lipase and hormone-sensitive lipase, causing release of triacylglycerol, and eventually break down into fatty acid and process into ketone bodies. Since Atkins diet emphasizes on high protein, moderate fat, and low carb, we are tricking our bodies into thinking that we are not having enough glucose in our blood. Thus, we continuously consume ATP for gluconeogenesis, fatty acid mobilization, and glucose-alanine cycle in liver. We are having plentiful alanine as a resource for this, thanks to the eating plan. Over time, this will help us losing weight, especially visceral fats. Now comes to the big question. Does Atkins diet actually work? Well, according to a study by Cliff Harvey et al. In 2019, with 39 participants who went through the very low carb, a low carb, and a moderate carb diet, similar to Atkins diet, the researchers found significant reduction in weight and body mass index occur along with increase in high-density lipoprotein cholesterol, low-density lipoprotein cholesterol. Triglyceride level were reduced and there was no significant change occurs between groups. Another study by Miller et al. In 2004 found that 18 adults whose BMI is at least or larger than 25 kilograms per meter square were instructed to follow the first 2 phases of the diet described in Dr. Atkins' New Diet Revolution. In 2 weeks for each phase, have decrease in weight correlate to decrease in calorie intake, since Atkins diet limits certain food. And in a study by Gardner et al. In 2019, 609 generally healthy adults aged 18-50 years with BMI of 28-40 kilograms per meter square were randomly assigned to a healthy low-fat or healthy low-carb diet for 12 months. In the study, an increase in the percentage of saturated fatty acid without significant change in absolute saturated fat intake over 12 months was found to associate with a statistically significant decrease in triglyceride in the context of a weight loss study, in which participants simultaneously decreased carbohydrate intake. So far, we see some very solid evidence that Atkins diet in fact works according to the promise, with metabolic evidence and study to back up. Of course, when it comes to losing weight and get a lean body, there's no magic bullet here. A systematic review by Astrup et al. Saw that low-carb diets in which weight loss is achieved are associated with the duration of the diet and restriction of energy intake, but not with restriction of carbohydrates. 2 randomized trials with low-carb and low-fat diets show better weight loss on a low-carb diet after 6 months, but no difference after 12 months. However, numerous studies have shown that low-carbohydrate diets are unlikely to produce significant long-term weight loss, and it may lead to serious health problems. Low-carbohydrate diets force the body to use fat as a main energy source, leading to ketosis. The brain, thereby devoid of its main energy source, glucose, is forced to make use of the metabolic breakdown products of fats and ketone bodies, leading to the common side effect: nausea, dizziness, constipation, headache, fatigue, and smelly breath. In addition, ketosis leads to metabolic dehydration, thus causing water loss rather than actual weight loss. Besides, Atkins diet program is not always palatable to follow. due to a very strict or to the point impossibly ideal food limit in phase 1 and phase 2. Since the key of a successful diet is consistency, this is not a very good point. Additionally, the American Heart Association was one of the pioneers in issuing a warning against high protein, high fat, low carbohydrate diets as a means of losing weight. Increasing consumption in saturated fat will increase radical production, leading to more oxidative stress, and increasing protein consumption will raise the risk of hyperuricemia and hypercalciuria. With regard to the evidence, as well as the metabolic pathway that Atkins diet tackles, this diet plan sounds like a decent and sensible weight loss intervention to follow, right? In fact, as long as the dieters try to be consistent with the plan and exercise regularly, then Atkins diet can help improve one's metabolic condition and contribute toward a healthier lifestyle. Just don't view Atkins diet as an excuse to have bacon and eggs for breakfast every day. So don't forget your daily vegetable and fruit portions.